Hi guys, I'm here with Anna Rusinowski, and she is in public relations for Women's Aviation. So I wanted to know so much more about this. We used to work together, so I always knew that she had a lot of passion in the aviation field, but she's doing so much more that I wanted you guys to be aware of. So thank you for joining us firstly.
Oh, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Great. How long have you been doing this?
So I started flying 5 years ago at an airport in Burlington, Ontario. And when I first started flying, I knew I had a passion for travel and adventure, but I didn't really know anything about the world of aviation because it wasn't something that really was introduced to me in school, aside from your like regular, units that you would cover in class about, this is an airplane, airplanes fly.
Do they even do that? I don't remember having anything in school.
I think they did cover something about like aviation, but it was very
so minuscule. Yeah,
I hardly remember it. So I did kind of an introductory flight, and what they do is they take you up and they let you have control of the airplane to kind of give you insight as to like how it works, and then you can decide whether you actually enjoy it or not and whether you want to pursue it. So I was hooked instantly, loved it. It was so much fun. And so I started my flight training in Burlington, where I completed my flight training, and it's generally a self-timed process. So it's not like your regular semestered school. It's really just how much time you have and money to put into it, because it is all mostly self-paid. Although there are college programs in the province that provide schooling and like education for like trades within aviation. Most pilots actually do pay their own way through most of their training, so it can be very expensive. So to give you an idea as to kind of the expense of it, on average you're generally paying about $70 an hour for an instructor, and then about $200 an hour for an airplane.
Wow.
So you need 40 hours just to get your private license, and then you need 200 hours total time to get your commercial license. So it ends up being a huge financial undertaking. And so that kind of like led me down the line to where I am now, which is I finished my private license and I was really excited about it. So I continued to fly for fun for the last 5 years. And then just more recently, I started working towards my commercial license with the hopes of becoming a flight instructor. So currently right now in the aviation industry, we have a fairly big problem. We have a pilot shortage, a severe pilot shortage. So
like how severe is severe? Like we should have X amount, but we have...
Yeah, so I can't tell you the
Don't
exact
tell
amounts
me
right now.
Yeah, like we should have 3, but we have 0.4.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, really.
It's fairly bad. So they.
Oh no.
Last time I was reading about it, they said that in the next 20 years, they expect that within North America alone, they'll need 250,000 pilots, and we certainly aren't like producing that many at such a rate. That's only in North America alone. In Asian markets, they'll need closer to 500,000 pilots. So, and with like the growing demand on travel, obviously that means we need more than we normally would. So what it's causing is a big pilot shortage, and with the cost of becoming a pilot, the aviation industry has kind of been dwindling a little bit for the last few years in terms of like careers as a pilot, because a lot of people have had a hard time paying for their training.
That was my next question. Yeah. Do you feel as though with there being a demand for pilots, do you feel as though they'll kind of make some accommodations?
I would hope so, but as of right now, I haven't heard anything. I know that they have been in talks, like at high levels of government, like the Transport Minister, Mark Garneau, is now really putting an emphasis on getting women involved in aviation, because there is only 6% of the population of commercial pilots are women.
Wow.
So if you think about how women can contribute, not only because it's such an amazing career, and I'm sure like a lot of women would love to get involved in it, but also with this shortage coming or like happening already, it would be great to get women involved, to obviously get them in roles within aviation, and not just within flight like operations, but also, you know, in air traffic control and engineering and maintenance. And there's so many different fields within aviation that are equally as valuable as, you know, flight operations. But it would be amazing to get more women involved in that respect, to just A, help the industry, and B, because it's an amazing career, and it'd be great to have more women represented in that field too.
So do you feel as though the drought is for pilots or everyone in aviation?
It's actually across the board. It's,
wow.
It's a lot. I think it's felt a lot more for me personally, because I am a pilot, so obviously I relate to that more. But I also am hearing about, you know, different airlines really needing engineers, or whether it's people on the ramp or in the office, and there's so many different you know,
paths,
avenues within aviation, like management, airport management, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely a booming industry, and so definitely is worthwhile to look into in terms of careers for young people looking to figure out what they want to do with their lives.
Yeah. I know you were saying that you kind of, it's as you go. The amount of time you put in is what you'll get out of this.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this?
Yeah. So I've been flying for 5 years. And at first when I started, I did it full time. So I took out a big chunk of change from the bank, co-signed by my parents, and went full time into my studies. So I was able to get a lot done in a shorter amount of time, which is ideal, because like anything, if you're not doing it for a while, you're out of practice, it takes longer. So I kind of like, you know, knocked it out of the park in terms of getting it all tied up with my actual license. And then after I completed my license, I just started flying for fun. So I was really lucky, because I met a lot of people who kind of allowed me to have these incredible experiences in their aircraft. You know, being young, you can't buy an airplane right when you finish your license usually. So I was really lucky, because I met people who, you know, either wanted a co-pilot or had a medical condition and couldn't fly their own airplane. So they would have me there to, you know, A, learn how to fly the plane, or not even learn, but be there to navigate in case something happened where they weren't able to land safely. So that was really great. And then also just through getting involved in all these different groups within aviation, I've met a lot of amazing women and men who, you know, have that like thirst for adventure, and have, you know, kind of led me by the hand, and like taught me different aspects or different things about all these different airplanes, because none of them are the same. You know, even if it's the same airplane, whenever you jump into another airplane, there's always like certain things that'll be different. So it's been a really great learning experience. I've traveled a fair bit through North America now, through the Yukon, the Northwest Territories, British Columbia, Alaska, Ontario, and then through some of the States. So it's been an amazing experience in that respect as well. But now I feel like I really want to give back to the community that's given me so much. So that's why I put so much of my time into working with several organizations. One namely is called the 99s.
Okay.
And they're actually a group that was started by Amelia Earhart herself.
Amazing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so her and some fellow pilots really wanted to start this organization for women in aviation. And so they sent out, I think it was like 100 and something letters to different female aviators around the state, or around the country in the United States. And 99 women replied saying that they wanted to be a part of the organization. So they named it the 99s. And they've been a huge proponent in having women involved in aviation. Not only is it because they're a community for women, but also they offer a lot of scholarships and different opportunities for women to get involved that necessarily don't have the means to. So right now, coming into the end of the year, we've got a few scholarships that are available to women that are involved or interested. But then there's also different things that are going on within the community that we try and plan that are fun, like whether they're outings and different fly-ins, or there's different community events, like one namely is called the Girls Take Flight in Oshawa, where we offer over 200 free flights to young girls and women in their first like small aircraft. So
Wait, when you say young girls and women, are these people looking to get into aviation, or just people like
they're like they're regular civilians, like not like they're basically what we try and promote is like anyone who has an interest in aviation to come out to the airport, and we get schools involved and different employers, different airlines, and they set up information booths. So it's more like a kind of like a impromptu conference. It's not like as formal, but
I love that.
so families come. It's not like limited by age. Although there are a lot of activities for kids, we have a lot of static displays for a lot of. So we, for example, last year we had a Q400, which is like a bigger plane from Porter come by with an all-female crew, and they had them lead kids through the cockpit and through the airframe. So it was really cool. And then we have the military; they get involved as well. And so all the planes and the pilots that fly that day, they actually are donating their time and their airplane. And so we have a registry in advance of the event, and so families will sign up their children, or young women will sign themselves up, and that puts them kind of in line to get up that day. So if you haven't ever flown in a small airplane and want to experience it, it's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door. And then also, all in one place, have all these resources like the colleges and airlines and organizations that are either offering scholarships or planning cool like fun things to do to kind of get yourself involved. So that's one of the main organizations that I work with. And then the other is called the Northern Lights Aero Foundation, and what they do is they honor women who have accomplished really amazing things in aviation, and they plan a gala which kind of celebrates them, and it's also a really great way to promote aviation to other women, because you're saying, wow, like look at this person, they've done so many amazing things despite kind of the odds, because there's a lot of women there that started flying 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we're like the first female pilot for Air Canada, and like that's huge, right? So it kind of brings to light the successes of other women to promote aviation to younger generations to come. So yeah, so a lot going on in that respect.
I can tell that this career, you're really like quite engulfed in it. It does encompass quite a number of your interests and everything that you do. What did you do before aviation?
Oh, good question. So had a fairly traditional kind of life before aviation kind of fell into my lap. I graduated from university with a Bachelor of Arts, and then I went back to finish a certificate in business management. And at that point, I still really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to travel. So I actually left on a work visa to New Zealand.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I worked there for a year in adventure tourism, and then I traveled to Australia for a year as well, and I actually worked in tourism as well, but more so actually as an au pair working with special needs children.
What's an au pair?
An au pair is like almost like a nanny.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you like you basically are looking after these children full time through the day. But in the community where I lived, it was like very small, and there was no school, so they were homeschooled. So it's caring for children, but with like maybe some extra layers on top of it.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it.
So I did that in Australia, and then I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. It's funny, like you think you kind of have it, you would have it figured out after high school, and then you roll into university, and it rolls into after university.
No, why would you have it figured out? I feel like everyone gets pushed into college or university or after high school, and most of us have no clue what we want to do, and we're just kind of like, sure, I'll pick something. I think I'm interested in that. And it ends up being kind of a snowball of, okay, not that, but maybe this, and oh, maybe that. And no, I think it's really quite difficult to figure out, unless it's something that's very innate in you. I think it's kind of difficult to figure out. So no, don't feel that way. But
it certainly like led me down this path as well. So in Australia, it was actually where I decided that I wanted to pursue aviation, namely because I was living right next to a tiny dirt strip in the middle of the outback. And they had these spotter planes that would take off every morning and like fly along the coast looking for humpback whales and manta rays and all these different creatures of the deep. And what they would do is they'd radio down to the boats in the harbor and say, okay, you're gonna go this way to find this, so that when the tourists came in, they were guaranteed to see something. And so I was watching these planes take off and I was like, gee, like I really want to do that. So when I got back to Canada after, you know, traveling for some time, I decided to like, you know, just bite the bullet, try it out and, you know, give it a good shot. And so I have. And so 5 years later, it's kind of led me down this path that I didn't actually expect, because although I have always wanted to support women, I don't think it's ever been so much a part of what I do. But now with having worked with these two organizations in particular and having seen the work that they've done, it just kind of motivates me more to kind of give back to the community that has given me so much, because I've had some unreal experiences and I'd like others to have that same opportunity. So
like unreal good.
Unreal good, like out of this world amazing. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
That's a good phrase for aviation, out of this world. Well, I guess it's a good phrase for like astronauts,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so talking about the fact that you were like, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be. Give me some insight. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh gosh. So there are a few things that I wanted to be. I remember I loved marine animals, so I thought I wanted to be a marine biologist for a very long time. Then I also thought I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Nice.
So I definitely like loved animals.
Yeah.
Like as a child, really wanted to do something with that. And I actually did for a little while. My first job was working at a pet store. And then after I did that, I got a job working as a veterinary assistant.
Oh, good.
And I was having such a great time until I realized I have a problem with blood. Like I started fainting in the operating room. And I was just like, maybe this isn't the career for me.
Yeah.
So after having kind of had that experience, it kind of changed my perspective on what I wanted to do. But otherwise I loved writing, and I actually thought I wanted to be a journalist for a very long time. And so I went to school with the idea that I would pursue journalism. And so I did my first year at Carleton University for their media program there. And then in my second year, I decided that actually maybe it wasn't the right fit for me. And so I graduated as an English major, and I've continued writing. Actually, it's funny how writing has actually come, although I stopped writing for a little while, it's come full circle back into my life, because with doing a lot of work in public relations, I have to write a lot, whether it's a press release or I'll write for certain magazines about different things that are happening or different stories about women in aviation. And so now I'm actually like a full-time writer for COPA, which is a Canadian Owners and Pilots Association magazine. And then I'm also a feature writer for Wings magazine, which is like a big aviation publication in Canada. So I help with a lot of their articles as well. So despite the fact that there's been so many kind of like offshoots of like different career aspirations in my life, it's all like all these different things that I've done have kind of helped where I am. I mean, I don't know about animals, but maybe if I start flying like rescue dogs.
Oh, that's cool.
It's actually, there's an organization that does that. They fly rescue animals from the north and down south to find homes for them. So maybe that'll be like my ultimate calling, because it'll be like aviation and puppies like put together.
But I do love that like some of your interests have been all encompassing. So now you're writing for aviation.
Yeah.
And it's great. Everything kind of ties in, and that's why I always ask that question, because it's funny to think about where we wanted to be and where we end up. So
Yeah.
I really love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time to get to know us and us get to know you and what you've been doing here. You're doing amazing work, so thank you so much for that. Is there anything we didn't talk about that we should?
I would just probably plug in that if there's anyone that has a keen interest in aviation and doesn't really know where to begin, there's so many resources out there, especially for women, but also for men. So I would encourage you to reach out to your local chapters or clubs. There's a lot of resources online, whether it be the 99s or the Northern Lights or Elevate or any number of organizations. You can reach out to myself personally if you kind of don't really know where to start. The first step in any journey is just reaching out to somebody and asking for guidance and beginning. So yeah, that's it.
When you complete your commercial license, and we've talked about that your intent is now to become a teacher of flight. What do you have to go through to be a teacher of flight?
Yeah. So after you've completed your commercial license, you then start your instructor's rating. And
instructor's rating.
Yeah, so basically it gives you the ability to teach other people how to fly airplanes.
Got it.
And in that program, they will teach you how to teach others that have never been in an airplane before. So you'll, go through all the exercises, and you know how to fly the airplane, but now it's learning how to communicate your knowledge to other people, and just running through exercises like that. So you essentially, for the instructor portion, you obviously are being instructed, but you'll have to teach your instructor so that he understands your
that you understand. Got it.
Exactly. So I believe that takes about 20 hours in total.
In addition to everything else.
In addition to everything else.
Got it.
Yeah. And then you would, after that, you would get contracted by a flight school and start your career as an instructor.
So being contracted by a flight school, is there a lot of demand for that?
Yes, there is a huge demand for that, especially, again, kind of linked back to the pilot shortage we spoke about earlier. Because there's a shortage in the airline industry, instructors are finding work in the airlines very quickly now, and flight schools are having a hard time keeping their instructors for longer, because usually it's a stepping stone. It's like a platform for the rest of their career. So you get your commercial license, you get your instructor's license, and as an instructor, you're really just building time and experience before you learn how to fly, bigger aircraft. So,
So I have a question. Can you get your commercial license and then be like, I want to be a pilot, I don't want to teach? Or you have to teach first, then it's like staircase?
You don't have to. So you can literally get your commercial license just to have it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it actually lowers your insurance rates if you decide to buy an airplane. You're certainly going to be a more proficient pilot. You're going to be trained to a different level. But you don't have to become an instructor. That's just one way to gain time locally also, because then you don't have to go too far from home. The other option is not getting an instructor's rating, but rather going maybe to northern Canada and flying small aircraft to mining camps or small towns where they need certain provisions that are hard to get to, so everything's flown in. You can do a lot of different things in aviation kind of in that respect. There's not just one path by any means, but instructing is a common way that a lot of people get hours and then move on to their airline aspirations, if that is their path. So with a lot of people that do become pilots, their aspirations are usually to get into the airlines. And so when now with the shortage taking place, airlines are lowering their minimums. So what used to be required was you would have to have 1,500 hours of flight before they would even consider your application. Well, now that number is slowly dropping, and they're accepting candidates sooner than they would normally. And so what's happening is that these instructors are finding jobs sooner, and then the flight schools are not able to hold on to their instructors for as long a period of time, which means that there's kind of a backlog down the line, and there's usually waiting lists for students. And then it's harder to obviously schedule because, they only have 4 instructors, and even though they have the airplanes, you got to make time with the instructors first. So it can be very difficult, but it's a whole chain effect, right? So it goes all the way down to the flight schools from the airlines. Yeah.
So I do have a question, because I understand that you were saying they put in their time being a flight instructor. So is there a certain, if you want to move up from flight instructor, instructor of flight?
Yeah, sure, you can call it that.
Is there an amount of time that you have to be in that position to upgrade, so to speak? Because I understand that there was the reference of you do the hours in that position.
Yeah, definitely.
So are we doing a set sort of hours to move up to another position?
Yeah, it is
Okay.
all, when it comes down to it, it is all about experience.
Okay.
And we measure that by hours. There's different things within that, like flying at night, flying a multi-engine aircraft, flying in what we call instrument conditions. So that's when there's bad weather, and so you fly by your instruments as opposed to visual reference outside of your cockpit. So there's different things within that airlines will consider for your experience. But really, becoming an instructor is a great way of accruing time, because you'll be teaching somebody else how to fly, but you're when it comes down to it, you're the pilot in command at all times when you're flying with a student.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll also give you the experience that you need for like multi-engine or instrument panel stuff that airlines desire. But really, when it comes down to it, it's really just like getting those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours so that you're in a position where you have the knowledge and the base to now learn even more. So
making you more well-rounded.
Yeah, exactly.
You've seen everything, you've done everything, you've got your hands dirty, so you can pretty much elevate and do more. And
exactly. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to kind of learn a little bit more about Anna and what she does and some of these organizations. If you guys have any questions, please always reach out. But as always, thank you for supporting local. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.